my son. He looks just like my wife, and he looks just like me. And this whole thing is just about, we're going to explore how this happens. Now, we won't get all the answers on it today, but we'll get the foundation of it. This is Mr. Gregor Mendel. He's an Austrian monk. This was in the 1800s. So he's a monk, literally lived in a monastery, meaning that he lives in basically an apartment, or I won't say an apartment, a building where only monks reside, and all they do is study scripture, pray, meditate. And now there are different types of monks. You got Tibetan monks that you just found in like Southeast Asia. They had like the orange robe with the shaved head kind of deal. That's Tibetan monks, and that's a different side of it, but it's the same concept. So this guy, he was a monk as well as a scientist, which usually religion and science do not go together with. Usually they're at odds, because science is trying to prove what religion says is spiritual and should be faith-based. The gaps in the religion where they say faith should fill it, usually science is trying to prove that there's not anything spiritual about it. It's scientific. So they don't usually work together, but with this guy, it did. And so, this is why I need you guys to start to get involved. Miss Athena, you are reading all of it while you guys are writing the first 2 points. All right, so with true breeding, what true breeding is by chance of Jimmy was allowed to impregnate himself. I don't know, I just figured you would get a snick. They laugh about it. So Jimmy was allowed or able to impregnate himself. He would produce an identical clone to himself, because he's the only one involved. He's the only one with DNA involved in the situation. So obviously, the offspring is going to be an identical clone to Jimmy. It doesn't have anywhere else to draw any DNA from. Does that make sense? So if somehow your mother was able to impregnate herself, it's only her DNA involved. Now, obviously, this can't happen with humans, but I'm just trying to give y'all an idea of what true breeding is. There's only one set of DNA involved, so the offspring have to be just like it. So that's what true breeding. Now, you will see this with plants, because if you take the pollen, the pistil and stamen off of a plant, and you just repollinate it off of the same, you're just going to get identical plants. Now, cross-pollination is more akin to what you see with humans and mammals and such. But in this case, we're talking about it with bees, where you take the male sex cell and you fertilize the female sex cell, which is usually the egg. So in humans, the sperm cell fertilizes the egg cell. You can say that's a form of cross-pollination, except this is specific to plants. Same deal. You take the pistil and the stamen. You take the pollen, which is basically the synonymous to the sperm cell of humans. So pollen, you dust it across, take the pistil and stamen, dust them across, and now you have offspring that will eventually come. They come from 2 separate plants. Plant A, take the male part, dust it across the female part of plant B. When that produces offspring, now you have what you will learn that's called a hybrid. And you got a question, Mr. Robinson?
Never mind.
You sure?
Yes, sir.
There's nothing wrong with asking a question, though. All right, well, if you need to, write it down or something, email me. Whatever. Anybody got questions? Anybody still writing?
Me.
All right, take your time. Again, as we're starting to do this, make sure you're thinking about your family. Think about what has made you and your family look, and even to some levels act the way that you act. Like, for instance, I have a half brother. We have the same father. So my dad and his mom, our dad and his mom were married, divorced, and then our dad married mama. So he and I we shared, we have the same father DNA, different maternal DNA. So there's some ways that we look alike, but then there's some ways that we drastically look different because our maternal input is different. It's almost like a recipe. We got the same daddy in the mix, but in his bowl, my mom, you add my mom's DNA into my bowl and his mom's DNA to his bowl. And then again, we're going to work to figure out which part of whose DNA is what's going to be expressed. Because you have your biological mother and biological father's DNA in your system. But all parts of it don't show. You don't look exactly like your mother, 100%. You don't look exactly like your father, 100%. You only look like pieces of each one. All right. So, it's going to be a good bit of writing because y'all have to write this part. Meanwhile, Miss Chapman is going to read it. And Miss Chapman, but I want you to stop after the piece, after the second point with mental study, traits of P. I'm going to come back to you.
Traits are specific characteristics such as color or height. They vary from one individual to another. Mental studies 7 traits of P.
Okay. I'm going to make this Jaden. Describe me.
Bald, ugly, ear pains, and nice shoes.
All right. So traits are the things that describe your characteristics. So bald head, big beard, brown skin, about 6 feet tall. I'm about 240 pounds. I wear an 11 shoe. I wear a size 38-30 pants. These things that describe me physically, all right? These are traits of mine. Now, for some of you, it might be pink hair with, a lip ring. That's a trait. Now, the lip ring, not so much. That does describe you, but you weren't born with it, I don't think. Okay, I just want to make sure. Now, for Brittany, you describe her hair. She's got natural hair out fro. Loving it. So anything that's describing your skin tone, your eye color, your height, anything like that is a trait. All right? Now, talking about the P generation, Miss Chapman.
P generation is the original pair. F1 generation is the offspring of the P generation.
All's there. So the P generation, if y'all stop and look and listen, I have to explain this and be thorough because it's easily confusing. It is a reference point. You always refer to the original pair you're talking about as the P generation. For instance, if you want to talk about myself and my wife, we are the P generation. You want to say we're the P generation. The F1 generation is the offspring of that P generation. So that would mean my son would be the F1. Now, at some point when he has his own children, they would be what generation? F2. 2. And then their kids would be F3 and so forth and so on. But it all depends on where you start. So, let's just say y'all start with my grandparents. They would be the P generation. That would make my parents F1, which would make me, which would make my son and his children and their children. All right, that's how it works. It all depends on where you start. You can start anywhere. You can trace back all the way back to your ancestors if they're in Italy, Ireland, the Congo, wherever. If you want to go back 72 generations, that one that you start with is the P, and every subsequent generation is F1, 2, so forth and so on. All right. It's just a reference spot so you'll understand where the traits are coming from, where they're going. Yes, sir. Be back in 4 minutes. All right, Ms. Chapman, give us the last piece.
Hybrids are the offspring of crosses between parents with different traits. All of the members of one generation had the characteristics of only one of the parents.
All right, hybrids. How many of y'all know what the Toyota Prius is? It's a hybrid. Y'all know why it's called a hybrid? It runs off how many types of energy? It runs off of two. It runs off of gasoline, and also it runs off of electricity. So literally, the driver can choose how they want to power the car. Do they want to power it via gas, classic way, or do they want to power it being electrical? Like literally, you take a Prius and you park that boy in the house and you plug it up. Just like y'all charge your cell phones, you charge your Prius. Now it has a much bigger plug and a much bigger charge, but that's what happens. And so, because of that, it's called a hybrid. Because you can run off of gas from the gas station, you can run off of electricity. Two types. Now, hybrids are the offspring of a cross between parents with two types of traits, meaning parent A, parent B. We are hybrids. Every one of us is a hybrid. Your mother had one set of traits. Your mother looks one way and your father looks one way. If anybody in here, mama and father, are identical twins, I have so many questions to ask.
And your mama, your sister and brother, and they did.
Yeah, I got a lot of questions. I'm gonna try not to get too far into your business, but scientifically, I just want to know what's going on. All right, so hybrids. Hybrids are a cross between two parents, just like that car. Two types of ways that it fuels itself. Hybrid, two parents with two sets of traits. Nobody's traits are 100% the same. Nobody, even identical twins. Everybody has different thumbprints. That's why it's so important to law enforcement, because we all got different thumbprints. All got different fingerprints. And even twins, after a while, if you know a twin long enough, you can tell twins apart easily. Even the most identical of twins, people can tell them apart. There are several in the 10th grade that you can tell apart. There's a couple of cheerleaders in the 9th grade. I don't know the girls, but
Emily and Holly.
yeah, you know, kind of walk with the
We got
hair swinging.
She got the tiger.
And we got
Yeah.
Tina here in Calvin.
Yeah. So, all right, we good?
No.
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 All right, y'all got any questions? Anything confusing y'all? Anything confusing anybody? Now we're going to get into here shortly. Keep in mind, this whole section is predicated on Mendel and him using peas. And so in this next slide or two, we're going to deal with how he took his peas and he had a hybrid cross. And in his F1 generation, meaning the first set of offspring, everybody, all of them came off with the characteristics of one parent. So they started to come off with certain characteristics.
Don't change.
All right. Well, slow poke Shemaiah.
I had skipped one, so I had to
Why you had skipped one?
because I didn't see
You weren't looking hard enough.
it.
I'm always being smart. Go ahead, DJ. You know the 4-minute rule. You good to go, Swift? She skipped the whole page. Like, yeah, I didn't see that you changed your slide.
I'm finished. Okay, I'm finished.
All right, so let's look at it. So, with this picture, these are the things that Gregor Mendel, the monk, who started this whole genetic thing, these are what he studied. He studied the shape of the seed, the color, the coat color, the shape of the pod, the color of the pod, the position of the flowers, and the height of the plant. So, remember what I said about P generations and F1. So the P is where you start. That's what we call the original pair. So he took round seeds and wrinkled seeds, and he crossed them, meaning he mated them. He took the pistil and stamen from one, dusted across the other, and all the kids came out round. So none of them came out wrinkled. All the kids they had the yellow and the green. All the kids offspring came out yellow. The coat color was gray and white. Everything came out gray. The pod shape, they all came out smooth. The color of the pod was green. The position of the flower was axial, meaning it's to the sides. And the plant height was tall. So for every one of them, they came out with these characteristics. Now, the question is, if everything came out round, yellow, gray, smooth, green, axial, and tall, what happened to the DNA, the genes that were wrinkled, green, white, constricted, yellow, terminal, and short?
I don't know. Maybe it's gonna happen when they get older. You know what I'm saying?
Maybe.
Like when old people shrink, or like they get wrinkled, their skin starts
We'll get into why they shrink and things another time. All right. Now,
copy this.
y'all copy this.
All of it.
Yes. And I'm going to give y'all an interesting movie quote to help y'all remember it one day here soon. All right. So, real simple part. Biological inheritance is a result of factors that are passed from one generation to the another. Meaning, what you are, who you are, is passed down to you from your parents, from your grandparents. That's common knowledge these days. Make sense? Yes or no? Voice it, yes or no.
Yeah.
Okay. So you get it from your mommy, your daddy, your uncle, your cousin, your sister, so forth and so on. Now, genes are the chemical factors that determine traits. We're still talking about DNA. Your genes are segments in your DNA that code for different things. So there's a section in your DNA that says, Bree, you're going to have brown hair. There's a section of your DNA that says, Corday, you're going to have lighter skin. There's a section of your DNA that says how tall your ears are going to be, how wide they're going to be, your nose, your height. There are deep parts of your DNA that tells your body when you're going to grow. All of these things are different genes. And actually, scientists have mapped out the entire human genome, meaning they know exactly where and on what gene and what part of on what chromosome and on what part of the chromosome is going to tell your body to do what. This is why I know I told y'all that if you have the money, you can go and design your baby to look exactly how you want to.
Oh yeah, I heard about that.
Because literally scientists know exactly on chromosome 1, section 2, this is going to tell what their skin tone is going to be. On chromosome 6, section 34 is going to can express muscle tone. Chromosome 12, section 4, breadth of the shoulders. So you can literally, if you have the time and the money, design your baby out to be exactly how you want it to be. Now,
Design your baby.
nah, man. Shh. Now, this last part, y'all stop and listen. The principle of dominance states that alleles are dominant and others are recessive. What this means is that when your parents made you, and that Again, half of your DNA came from your mother, half from your father. One side is going to have whatever traits are dominant are going to be expressed. The only time a recessive trait, which is going to be expressed, is when there's no dominant there. Now, I'm gonna give you a little scenario from a movie that is not gonna really stick until you work on this some more, but it'll make sense. How many of y'all have seen the movie Friday?
Oh yeah, I see.
What?
The original movie Friday.
You like Debo?
All right, speaking of Debo, this is what happens. There's a scene where Smokey, Craig, and Red are on the porch.
Yeah.
And Debo walks up. And Red tucks his chain in and is like, yeah, I'm gonna just hide mine. And so Debo comes up.
In my grandma chain.
Exactly. Debo snatches Red's chain, punches Red, and takes the bite, the beach cruise.
I can't see.
The whole time, Craig and Smokey are sitting on the porch. They're not really saying a word. When Debo leaves, Smokey hops up and like, yeah, I got mind control over Debo. When he's here, I'm quiet. But when he leaves, I talk again. That's how this works. When the dominant is present, the recessive does not show. So if blue eyes is dominant for you and brown is recessive, then as long as that blue eye is there, that blue eye gene is there, that blue is going to be expressed. You're going to have blue eyes. But if the recessive is brown from your mother and the recessive is brown from your father, and there's no dominant that happens to be present, then that dominant is going to speak. It's like Smokey. When Debo is not around, it's going to get expressed. All right? So, again, this is an introduction. We'll get into the hows and whys of it here soon, but this is an introduction to it.